Hello and welcome to Tuesday. It is like 6:30 in the morning and I have to go to jury duty again. This is going to be fun. Hello and welcome to Tuesday. It's been quite a day. I'm not so sure if I mentioned this in the previous clip, but I woke up around 6 in the morning and then I was pretty much ready to go out the house at 6:30, on the highway at 6:40, and that's where our day starts. Uh, Took like 2 hours to get to the city, which it sucks, but it's what you gotta do. Drove there, had to find parking, found like a really interesting parking lot. It was only $16, and the guy did not give me any identification for my car. I just had the ticket, and that's all he gave me. And he didn't mark the car or anything. I think he assumed that I would be there later, like during his shift, but I didn't, and we'll get to that. So, um, got to the courthouse, right about 6:45. Our call time was 8:45. Call time was like 8:30. So running a tiny bit late. Hopefully they won't get mad at me. And once I got there, it was the same. We were guided into the same waiting room. I had to go through security. I made sure everything was in my pockets, unlike yesterday where I was still wearing everything. Everything was in my pockets, pretty much ready to go. Had to turn my phone off, and that was the last I would see my phone for quite a bit of time. That was 8:45ish. So, walk up into the room, and there are no clocks at this point. Uh, there's no clocks in the building. There's only one clock, and that's at the very end of our story. We go into the building. Well, I go into the building. Go back to the waiting room where I was the day before. And lucky for me, I had brought a book, which is somewhere. I don't know where it is currently, but it is somewhere in this room. I'm willing to bet that it is not there. It was here. I cannot tell you where it was, but let me grab the cover. Oh, it's right there. Okay. It was It was this book, which I took the cover off because it is signed. It is John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed, and I'll talk about that tomorrow. I think I want to dedicate a whole video on that, if not a whole segment tomorrow. But sat down with this book, and I started reading. So let's say it's like 9 o'clock. I start reading, and reading, and reading, and eventually it rolls around to 11:50. I'm about 200 pages into the book. Let's see, this book has, let's say, close to 280 pages. I was on page 200-ish, and that was at 11:50. The administrative assistant comes in and talks to us and tells us, okay, we're gonna go break for lunch. You have 1 hour. There's a cafeteria upstairs. You can go outside. You can go grab your phones. Just be back here at 12:50. So, I'm in the middle of a chapter. I'm still reading, and I finished the chapter. Everybody has left at this point. It's maybe about 12 o'clock. I go out, go upstairs to the cafeteria. I figured I didn't really want to leave and go through security again because that was a bit of a hassle and it's cold out, so I don't want to go. It's like 30 something degrees, 30s, 40s. So, go upstairs, check out the cafeteria. It is a average cafeteria. They had quite an interesting selection, from burgers and fries to soup and sandwiches to steak. The special of the day was a loaded baked potato, but I opted for a gyro, which, let me tell you, this is a bad idea. Don't get messy foods in a place where you know, where the standards are pretty high. Like a judge house or like a courthouse, don't get the Don't get something you need to eat with your hands or is messy. Get something that you eat with a knife and fork. Pro tip for life. So, once I'm done eating, I head back to the waiting room. And this waiting room is like imagine it's just like a large doctor's office waiting room. Chairs are spaced 6 feet apart or so. I think it's like something like 6 by 6 for the chairs in a 6 row 6 column, so it's about 36 or so, something like that. Maybe 40-ish, something. It's arranged kind of like that. Walls are pretty much wooden. Not like this, but more like just like a wooden panel itself, like a. If you've seen the walls of my basement, I think it's similar to those. There's like 4 TVs in the room. They're all off because they can't show any. They used to show CNN, but the court cases would appear on CNN, and they would show military training videos or like some kind of training videos, U.S. Marshal, I believe, and we're clearly not that, so the TVs were off. So, I go back to the waiting room. It's like 12:20 now, 12:30-ish. So I continue reading, and reading, and reading, until I finish the book. At that point, I went to the bathroom. I was able to find a clock, and it was like close to 1:32, something like that. It's hard remembering, but once I get there, use the bathroom, whatever, come back. Not too long later, we get called. They say, "Okay, we're ready to bring you to the courtroom." This is maybe like 12:30 or so, and we're brought. Everybody's. They start calling people by names and then assigning us numbers. I was number. I was number 81. And let me tell you, there were 100 of us. 50 came in at 8:30 on Monday. 50 of us came in at 1 o'clock on Monday. The 50 who came in at 1 o'clock had to come back today at 8:30. So, we all made that trek. We all get assigned a number, and then we are walked into a very large courtroom. I'm talking it's like basketball court size. There's like very large benches on one side. There's benches here. There's like a jury stand there. There's a jury stand over there. Benches there. In front of us, there's 2 big tables, and then it's like I haven't seen the Supreme Court, but I assume like that's what the Supreme Court looks like. There was like 2 rows for the judges up top, and there were like so many chairs. Again, we all had to sit apart, social distancing, so maybe like 2-3 of us would be in one bench section. And again, there's like 50 of us. We walk in, there's some lawyers there. Turns out the guy that the defendant was also right there, and that comes into a tiny bit of play later. The judge welcomes us, and he begins to let me. I have everything written down because I went through this with a friend a little bit earlier. So the judge explains to us, "You're here for a criminal case," and here the charges for this case are racketeering, drug trafficking, I think conspiracy to murder, maybe actual murder, and several other crimes, let's put it like that. And it turns out one of our jurors actually looked up the case the night before because he looked at the judge's name. He's like, okay, this is a case from 4 years ago that they're for some reason redoing, and the reason it's in federal court, because this is a federal case, not a local case, is the racketeering stuff. That's why it's in federal court. Everything else would have been in the state or civil court, state court, if it wasn't for the racketeering. So all those charges got lumped in. So the judge begins asking us certain criteria. So it's like, if you, does anyone harbor feelings, whether it be good or negative, towards the police, towards a specific race, towards a specific place where this case what happened, the concept of government, the concept of anything, of, like, siding, would you be impartial, would you side with the government, would you side with the defendant, things like that. So people begin standing. I stood up for, was it a burden to travel? Yes, it took me like 2.5 hours to get here, and I had to wake up very early, and parking it sucks. And I stood up for one other thing. I think it was like, do you know any police officers? And I do have police officers in the family. So after all that, we eventually get split. The judge tells us, okay, go into separate courtrooms. We'll bring you in one by one. So we go to smaller courtrooms, about, I think I said the previous one was the size of a basketball court. This one is about a tennis court size, probably larger. And, it's a smaller courtroom. Luckily, there's a clock in there for us. So it's probably like 3:15ish around that time. So we begin the process of waiting again. And waiting, and waiting. We wait until, let's say, 4 o'clock. We had been split into groups of 25 each. So 51 through 76, 75 have been in the first room. 76 through 100 have been in our room. I'm 81 again. So 4 o'clock rolls around, and we're wondering why nobody in our group has been called. Turns out they were going in order. One of our group went and asked the administrative assistants what's happening. They said that they are working through the people one by one, starting with 51. They had started, I think they were on 61 at this point. So everybody in our group is like, okay, are they going to get to us? 4:30 rolls around. They're at 63. Everybody in the room is getting antsy. We're all very concerned because we don't want to come back tomorrow. We have been sitting there doing nothing for 8 hours at this point. Time is starting to roll around to 5 o'clock. It's getting later and later. We're starting to get really antsy. Everybody wants to go, because at 5 o'clock, what are they going to do? The office is closed at 5 o'clock. 4:50 rolls around. They're at 63. In an hour or so, hour and a half, something like that. Well, whatever the last time I said. They had only interviewed 2 more people. It's 4:55. People in our group are getting very antsy. They want to go. One woman is tossing the idea. At 5 o'clock, I'm walking out. She gets her things ready. She's like, everybody who wants to leave, at 5 o'clock we're walking out. They're staging a walkout. They begin counting down as its clock begins to strike 5 from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. They all, let's say 15 people walk out. Not too long after, they're stopped by security, who asks them, please remain in the building. Things are happening. We just need you to stay here. So they wait in the hall. At this point, I decide I'm going to go to the bathroom again. Go to the bathroom, come back out, go back to the room. The people who were in the hall are no longer in the hall. Turns out the judge is actually talking to our group. He's saying, thank you for waiting. We know that this is a long process, and thank you for your patience. At this point, I think they reached like 66 people or so. Maybe like 5:15ish, they reached 66 people. And they're like, okay, please just wait a little bit longer. We pretty much have the entire jury selected. we just need to finalize everything. It'll take until 5:30. So everybody's waiting and waiting and waiting. 5:30 rolls around, nothing. Everybody just wants to be done with this because we know we're in the clear. We're numbers 76 through 100. We're fine. They still have a 10-person buffer and they have everybody selected. So none of our group is going to be selected. We don't have to do this again. Speaking of, this court case would have been 2.5 weeks. It would have been going on for maybe 10 to 12 days starting in like 2 weeks or early December as well. So it would go for 3 weeks. It would be 3 weeks of this again. So 5:30 rolls around. We're all waiting. We're all just talking about nonsense. And then eventually 5:45 rolls around. We get up and ask the administrative assistants, how long do they keep jurors here? The longest has been 6 o'clock. So we're all waiting and waiting again. I mentioned that we're going for the record. Turns out we were. 6 o'clock rolls around and we're all still waiting. Just talking, trying to pass the time. There's a case of like Poland Spring water bottles that were just sitting on the table, and I figured if they're keeping us here, I'm ripping these things open and just passing out water bottles. So hopefully I didn't get in trouble for that, but at this point I don't really care. We talked to the administrative assistant again. They said they've pretty much selected the entire jury. They have their 12, they have their 4 standby. We're just waiting for them to finalize everything. So a couple minutes pass again, maybe 5-10 more minutes. Judge comes, the administrative assistants come in and they're like, okay, they had given us handouts with just lists of names and places and everything, to make sure, like, just have a physical copy of people who were on the case and if we recognize any of them, so that we weren't impartial. They asked for them back, and then we're still waiting a little bit longer, but they grab the papers and everything. Judge comes in and he's finally like, thank you all for waiting. We selected the jury. You do not need to do this again. You do not need to come in. Just, finish. You're finished. You're dismissed. Off the case. Go home. So everybody is ecstatic. We all like rush out of the building. Everybody gets their phones. As soon as I got mine, turned it on. Somehow 98% battery. I guess that's the magic of smartphone technology. Leave. I walk around the block to the parking lot where I parked my car. And then car's in the corner, so I know it's still here, thank God. Walk into the building. I hand the guy my ticket. He's like, there's no identification on this. I'm like, okay, let's go look at the registration. Luckily for me, the registration has my dad's name on it, but the address is the same, so that's fine. I finally get in my car, and then I head home. Get home at like 7:30, I probably got it, yeah. So, a little bit past 7:30, so it was a rough day. 9.5 hours of waiting. Glad it's over. Okay. Yeah, I would not like to do this again. Got like a minute of recording time left, so I'm gonna kind of end it here. It was a rough day. It was not fun, and I don't plan on doing that ever again. Unfortunately, by law, I'm required to, but hopefully the process in like two years or so is going to be much quicker. And I need to mail in the receipts for my parking so that I get reimbursed for that. Okay. I'm going to call it here for today. It's been quite a long day, and story of jury duty itself, it's tiring. I'm going to go to sleep. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you tomorrow. And until then, later.